Joining me now is the Associate Editor at The Australian, Graham Lloyd. Graham, less than a fortnight from the referendum, are we seeing the government enter really into a period of expectation management on the result?
Well, good morning, Karen. Well, it's looking that way. Grand final week is now over. We have 2 weeks until the vote. And the way things are looking, you'd have to say that it hasn't gone the way perhaps the Prime Minister was expecting. We've had the first votes out in rural, regional communities, Aboriginal communities north of Broome. And the Australian was there, and the first vote, interestingly, was a question mark. So that's informal, but the question that was posed is, well, how's this going to make a difference? And I think that's the thing that the Yes campaign needs to really hammer home in the next 2 weeks if it wants to go anywhere. Chances are, I think, as you were discussing earlier, that will be a Herculean task and is unlikely. I think the Prime Minister and the government now need to manage expectations and work out where they go after the referendum's held. The Prime Minister's got an overseas trip coming up. He's already said this week, look, he's going to focus on things like the energy transition. So I think they'll be looking at how to move forward and put it behind them.
The first RBA decision under the new governor looming as pressures remain here and abroad, Graham.
They do indeed, Kieran. Michelle Bullock holds her first meeting this week to make a decision, and people were probably thinking, look, everything's on pause and we can relax. But this week we had the inflation figures out. They were back up a little bit again. The really bad news is overseas, where bond markets are rising. They're signalling more interest rate rises in the US, which has led to speculation about, look, there's going to be a profound impact on markets generally. So the new governor sits down and has some pretty tough decisions to make going forward. It's unlikely there'll be a rise this week, but it's not going to be smooth sailing.
No, and not smooth sailing for Qantas at the moment either. The aviation inquiry, we heard from Bridget McKenzie, will be demanding the appearance of the former CEO, Alan Joyce.
That's right. It's an interesting thing that the main protagonists, that's the Transport Minister and Alan Joyce, both on holidays and couldn't cooperate with the hearings, which really provided a lot of entertainment and information this week. I guess you'd say two things. One is Qantas is a private company. It's really for shareholders to decide how it should conduct its business. But the thing that's come out of those issues that you spoke of earlier, particularly slot hoarding in Sydney, the monitoring in real time of flight cancellations and performance. I think the inquiry has done a good job putting those on the table, and they're the things people really need to understand to build competition in the market and get those prices down.
Yeah, and I think the Minister, particularly on that slot hoarding issue, create a bit of competition, a good way to get on the front foot. They need to. Finally, Daniel Andrews has gone, and it really was a big moment, not just for Victorian politics, but Australian politics.
Yes, indeed. I think Daniel Andrews had a dominant position in Victoria, obviously, but that spilled over as well into the national sphere through National Cabinet. We had reports after his resignation that he had really corralled other premiers to put up a united front against the Commonwealth and made things more difficult. So in a way, the dynamic changes for Anthony Albanese and how he deals with the states with Dan Andrews no longer there. The big question, of course, is where he goes to from here.
Yep, that is the unknown. I think he's going to the golf course in the short term anyway. Graham Lloyd, appreciate it. Have a great week. See you next week.
Thank you.